Sometimes it can feel hard to describe this feeling, but you've probably felt it too. The sense that the rules we used to live by, rules we were told mattered, are being completely disregarded and rearranged in real time. And none of this happens with the typical avenues. That's part of the rule breaking, right? It's not amendments or reforms. It happens with a group of people who just suddenly shrug and go silent, and then power just goes on doing what it wants, and then they all cheer it on and call it something noble. And the part that makes your stomach twist the most isn't just the corruption or the violence or the lies. It's that so many people don't seem to care about those things anymore. I have to believe that they see the contradiction, that they see the reversal. But they cheer it on anyway. And they call it justice now, or strength, or patriotism, or taking our country back. But deep down, everyone knows what it is. It isn't about policy. It's about permission. What gets allowed when your side is in charge? And what do you rail against when it's not? Let's begin with law and order. On June 1st, 2020, I think it was, Trump stood in the Rose Garden and urged governors to dominate the streets. He threatened to send in the U.S. military then. And that wasn't his plan for de-escalation, because he only knows one direction: control. Force becomes his answer to everything. And anyone standing in its way is treated like a threat. And now look what followed that June 1st, 2020 event. We had January 6, 2021, when a violent breach of the U.S. Capitol happened during a constitutional proceeding. Police were assaulted, Congress was evacuated, and people died in the chaos and the days that followed. Over 1,500 individuals were charged. Some were convicted of assaulting law enforcement. And when Trump returned to power in 2025, he pardoned nearly all of them. The standard had changed, it seemed. Where punishment had once been the call, absolution became the reward. And with it, the meaning of law and order collapsed. It's no longer a principle, it's just some sort of a posture. They used to say insurrection when glass broke during a protest, when traffic was blocked, when a speaker was interrupted. That word carried some sort of weight until it no longer served those in power. So when the Capitol was stormed, when officials were hunted, when the certification of an election was interrupted, it didn't fit the narrative anymore. So the word was emptied out and replaced with softer words like dispute or expression or even justice. In 2026, where we find ourselves now, Trump has again raised the possibility of invoking the Insurrection Act, and this time in response to protests over federal immigration raids. Civilians have been marching after unarmed people were killed in the streets by agents. The answer from the federal government has not been accountability. It has been a preparation for more force. So insurrection became a label applied very selectively, not based on action, but on allegiance, and power has adjusted accordingly. Let's turn our gaze to corruption. You know those Trump-owned properties that are paid millions in public funds during his first term? Well, a GAO review found that just 4 trips to Mar-a-Lago cost taxpayers over $13.6 million. And later came clemency grants to political allies then a second term filled with disputes over U.S. attorney appointments and pressure inside the Department of Justice. So corruption was no longer hidden. It didn't need to be, because enough people stopped expecting any form of restraint. What had once been a scandal became a show of dominance, and that was seen as a virtue. This is where we find ourselves. It is unbelievable